It's not often that runes make the news, but on Wednesday of this week, a portion of the partially destroyed Hunnestad runic monument from southern Sweden was rediscovered. In this video, I'm going to tell you a little bit about that monument, its runic and artistic components, and what I can glean from Swedish news sources about this recent discovery. Hi, I'm Jackson Crawford. I'm a specialist in Old Norse myth, language, runes, etc. Formerly employed at several different universities to teach these subjects, and now embarked on an independent venture talking about these things on my Patreon-supported YouTube channel. Now, in a world where the the experts don't want to talk to the public, but lots of basement witches and wizards posing as experts do, this is an uphill battle presenting real expertise on these popular subjects without an agenda. But with the help of my Patreon supporters, I'm managing. So let's talk about the Hunnestad monument from Sweden. Now, we know part of what is lost from this monument because it was not thoroughly destroyed until probably the end of the 1700s. The 1700s being a fairly bad time to be a monument of any kind. We know that it consisted once of 8 standing stones because these stones were depicted by Danish antiquarian Ola Worm, who was one of the really the first early modern scholars to take an interest in runes. He traveled all around Denmark, or what was Denmark at the time, which includes the southernmost county of Sweden, Skåne, or as the locals say, Skalna, which is where the Hunnestad monument is. So in his 1643 book, Monumenta Danica, or Danicorum Monumentorum Libri Sex, to use its longer title, which isn't even its longest title, his survey of known runestones in Denmark, what was then Denmark at the time, Olaf Worm drew these 8 stones, giving us a good picture of what the art on the 3 picture stones had and what the words on the 2 runestones had. Now notice I'm not calling the stones, other than the 2 that are written on, runestones, because they technically aren't. We have to be clear about what the technical meaning of rune is. A rune is a letter in an alphabet. Before the Viking Age, that's the 24-letter Elder Futhark alphabet. During the Viking Age, and for a few centuries after, it's the 16-letter Younger Futhark alphabet. So this is a Younger Futhark runic monument. It's not in the Elder Futhark alphabet. So if you've only encountered the Elder Futhark because that's just what you're going to find on the books you find on the top searches for runes on Amazon or on most places on the internet. If you've only seen the Elder Futhark, you're not going to understand these Younger Futhark inscriptions. But in fact, we have a lot more Younger Futhark and much more interesting inscriptions in Younger Futhark. Now, so runes are just the letters in these alphabets, but there's also art stones, if you will. We call them picture stones. These stones, like 3 of those in the Hunnestad monument, don't actually have writing on them. They have instead pictures of something or another. All right, but those aren't technically runes. Just like famous symbols or sigils like the Ayeshjalmar are not technically runes, they're not letters from these alphabets, and they're also chronologically from many centuries later. All right, so what did this monument consist of? The 2 rune stones, which by language and rune shape we can date to probably, I'm going to say, mid to late 900s. The language is actually pretty archaic, which would make me lean a little bit earlier, but the presence of a Christian cross makes me lean a little bit later, given where this is. So mid-late 900s seems about right. Most runic inscriptions, by the way, don't consist of the rock and roll heavy metal lyrics that everybody kind of wants them to, right? Runestones are really, really pedestrian in their content most of the time. I mean, one exception to that is the Rookstone, which was in the news about a year prior to this. But for the most part, they're very pedestrian. So one of these says, Osbjorn och Tumi þeir settu stein dansi eftir Rói och Leikfröð sonu Gunna Handar. And then there's a picture of a man with an axe. Quite simply, this means Osbjorn and Tomi, something like that, they placed this stone after or in memory of someone named Roir or Hroir and Leikfröð, sons of Gunni Hand. Some guy named Gunni whose nickname is Hand. And then the other one, which has a picture of a cross, says simply Osbjorn, so a guy who's also in the other stone, Setti stein thansi efter Tuma son Gunna Handar. So Osbjorn placed this stone in memory of Tumi or Tomi, the son of Gunni the Hand. So apparently one of them is earlier when Tumi is still alive, and they're placing it in memory of two of his brothers. And then after Tumi dies, Osbjorn puts another one there in memory of him. Now, the art that appears on runestones and on picture stones associated with runestones doesn't necessarily have anything to do with what's written on those stones. So a very famous example of this is also in Sweden, one of the stones that actually depicts the legend of Sigurd the Dragon Slayer from the Volsungs legends has a runic inscription that just mentions that it's, a memorial carved for somebody who died. It has nothing to do with Sigurd at all. So there's nothing really in what's written here to give us any clues about the meaning of the pictures. And now these two written stones are now in the Cultural Historical Museum of Lund, Sweden, usually called Kulturen, together with the previously discovered picture stone. Now, I have to give you a quick message from my sponsor here. I'll come back and I'll tell you about these picture stones, including the one that has just recently been rediscovered as of Wednesday. All right, so the one that we already had found is a picture of a female figure riding a wolf with snakes for reins. Now, this picture stone is, again, in the possession of the Kulturen Museum in Lund, Sweden. Now, such a figure, a female figure riding a wolf with snakes for reins, is found twice in the Eddas, the real primary sources for Norse mythology. In one poem in the Poetic Edda, the poem Helgakvida Hjorvarssonar, the young man Hedin meets such a woman. She is described as Troll kolnu su reið vargi og hafði orma at taumum. That troll woman rode a wolf and had snakes for reins. Now, there's a lot of negative language here. Troll is never used pleasantly to describe a woman. And then vargur is the unpleasant, evil word for wolves, not the more neutral word ulver, which is, of course, related to our word wolf. So she's being set up as a negative figure, and of course she is. She ends up cursing Heaven and either causing or predicting. The line between those two things is always blurry in Norse myth, him to kill his brother. And then the other place we see such a woman is in the Prose Edda at the funeral of the god Balder, where the gods have to send to Jotunheimar, the realm of their enemies, for someone who's strong enough to launch the huge ship of which Balder is going to be cremated. And here she's given the name Hyrrokin, and she's called a Gugur, which is another very negative word for women, associated with women who might otherwise be described as trolls, or Jotnar, so-called giants, the enemies of the gods, or witches. And we are told that Hon kom och reið vargi och hafði hogorm at taumum. She came and rode a wolf, again the negative word, and had poisonous worms in the place of reins. So clearly the woman riding a wolf with snakes for reins is a known motif, if not specific figure in Norse mythology, and we can take this stone as a fascinatingly clear depiction of that figure. Now, another picture stone, which is still lost, shows a wolf kind of entangled in the large beard of a bearded male figure. Some people have seen this as a mask. Some people have seen the wolf as chained. I can't quite see it, but medieval art is vague at best. If it's chained, then it could be Fenrir, the wolf who is chained up and then eventually kills Odin at Ragnarok. I'm not willing to go that far and say that's specifically what it is, but this stone is still missing. But then the third stone was discovered just Wednesday during excavations to put in a sewer line close to where this monument once stood, down in southern Sweden in Skalna. And this is the stone that has some kind of other beast on it. It's really hard to say what this beast is supposed to be. These loopy, twisty depictions of animals are, of course, a very common motif in Viking art, something that you can learn a lot about from Jonas Lau Markusson, who I've interviewed on this channel about Viking art. And the animals, the way they draw animals can be so vague that it's really kind of tough to say if this is supposed to be some kind of super stylized wolf or something completely different. So we can't quite be sure. But it was just recently rediscovered. So no doubt this will go on display soon, perhaps also at Kulturen in Lund. That would be great to have it still stay relatively close to where it was found. And perhaps we will also find the last stone, the one with that Olaf Orm depicted as having the wolf with the face. Maybe that's close by. Maybe someone else needs to dig some new trenches for sewer lines, and we'll find that. But if we can reconstruct this whole 8-stone monument, some of the stones apparently were blank, that would be a really cool thing for the study of Scandinavian early history. I'm going to leave you with a couple of recommendations for further readings and some links to other videos that I've made about related subjects like runes, and also a little bit, of course, of my beloved Rocky Mountain scenery. For now, for beautiful Colorado, we wish you all the best.